So the first video we said that it's about using laboratory safety equipment. What do you need? What do you need to know when you go to work in a lab? First thing this video is talking about, you need to know what safety equipment is in the lab. So you need to know, usually there is a safety shower, there is an eye wash station, there is a fire extinguisher, there is a blanket, and there is a first aid kit. You need to know what kind of equipment, safety equipment we have, where is the safety equipment, and how to use it. So this video is talking about that. What is the safety shower for? When do you use the safety shower? You use it if you spill chemicals on your skin or your clothing. When do you use the eye wash station? Well, if you splash chemicals on your eyes, you quickly move to the eye wash station and you open the water and you make sure that the water makes contact with your eyes, and you stayed for at least 15 minutes. And why I'm saying that you need to take notes, because they might ask you for how long at least you need to be when you do the quiz in the shower or in the eye wash station. So at least 15 minutes. And this video is also talking about if you have a small fire, it will show you how to extinguish that fire. Basically, if it's very small, they cover with a beaker, with a glassware, just to cut off the oxygen, and then the fire will extinguish. But if you have fire on yourself, if you catch fire on yourself, it's showing you that you can take a blanket, and the blanket, you cover yourself with the blanket. It's a special blanket it's a fire blanket, and then you roll down on the floor just to extinguish the fire. And then in this video is also showing you how to use a fire extinguisher. Of course, you are always, if you are in the lab, you are going to inform your instructor. But in order to remember how to use a fire extinguisher, they want you to remember the acronym PASS. P as in Paul, A, S as in Samuel, S as in Samuel. If you remember PASS, they will say, okay, then you remember how to use, it will help you remember how to use the fire extinguisher. The P is to pull the trigger. The A is to aim at the base of the fire. That's the first S is to squeeze the lever. And the second S is basically just to sweep the spray from side to side. And basically that is the main points. Of course, you're going to watch it, but maybe after you hear me, it will be easier to remember. This is basically the main points about the first video. What kind of the safety equipment you have, you need to remember, and where is it and how to use it. The second video. Any questions so far regarding the first video, or any question? Okay. The second video, it says understanding the SDS. SDS is safety, stands for safety data sheets. SDSs are the best resource for information about the chemicals. you need to know each chemical has an SDS. All chemicals have an SDS. And when you need information about that chemical, you look for the SDS. You need to know where they are. Now that everything is electronic, we have them also electronically. In the labs that I work, I like to have it, you never know if it's a power outreach or whatever, I like to have it in paper in case we had an emergency. Emergency happens, it's hopefully, I mean, in school it won't happen, but it's very important to read before you use the chemical, to read the SDSs. The SDSs have different sections, and you will need to get familiar. You can actually, during the quiz, you will be able to look at an SDS and look at the different sections. And the first section is just telling you, basically identify the chemical. And if there are other names, it will give you the other names and the formula. And then there are usually about 16 sections. So then there is another section that talks about the hazard identification. So basically that section is very important because it's going to tell you what are the dangers of that chemical. And let me share here a drawing because the SDSs included a system. Let me share this safety image. Okay, look at the upper. You can zoom in your own computer. Look at this diamond. Has 4 colors. This is a diamond that is called National Fire Protection Association diamond. Has a lot of letters. National Fire Protection Association diamond. You've probably seen those diamonds when you see a truck that is carrying some chemicals. Usually you will see those diamonds, and those diamonds have numbers. Basically, it has a ranking. The numbers are from 0 to 4. So if you have a rating of 0, let's see, like here, ethanol in the yellow here has a 0. 0 is stable, but as the number increases, if you have a rating of 4, then it's the most hazardous in each area. Why I'm saying each area? Because there are 4 areas. You have the blue here, you have the red, you have the yellow, and you have the white. And you need to be familiar with these diamonds. What is the red section? The red section, it will indicate the flammability. And it's easy to remember because it's red. So you associate that with fire. So the red up is flammability. What happens if you see 0, like bleach? In the red has a 0. What does that mean? That the chemical will not burn. What happens if the chemical has a 3, like ethanol? It's not 4, which is the maximum, but still, it's flammable below 100 Fahrenheit. So it's still flammable. We keep the ethanol inside the flammable cabinet and we close the door. So these diamonds tells us a lot of information about the chemical. What is that yellow section? The yellow section is very important. It's showing the reactivity of the chemical. What happens if we have a 0 in reactivity? That is good, like ethanol. The chemical here has a 0, it's stable. But look at nitroglycerin. You are familiar with nitroglycerin. I worked with that in a defense company. We had a lot of explosives and we had to be very, very careful. What is this number 4? It's the highest ranking, means that the compound may detonate. So all those that information just by looking at those diamonds. And what is the blue category? The blue category is the health hazard. Health hazard. So let's look at different compounds. If we have a 1, well, it's going to have some health hazard. As we increase the number, it's worse. Look at the bleach, has a 3. And what is the white section? The white section talks about special hazards or how to handle the chemicals. So sometimes we have a, let's say, different, if we have like here in this chemical, we have a W that is crossed. That means that chemical cannot be in contact with water. And then it will tell you if it's an oxidizer, you will see OX, if it's radioactive, if it's an alkali, you will see in the white here, well, not that one, but you will see ALC. So that is basically, these diamonds will give you a lot of information about the chemical, and those are included in the SDSs. So coming back to the SDSs, let me go back to share. Okay, so here we are back in the video understanding the SDS. So we know in the SDS we have a lot of sections. We also know that those diamonds, NFP diamonds, are included. We know what those mean. And what other sections are in the SDSs? We have a section of exposure controls or personal protection section. Basically, that section will tell you what PPE you have to use. What is PPE? Personal protection equipment. What kind you have to use? It will tell you if you have to wear gloves, what kind of gloves, if you have to wear goggles, if you have to wear a lab coat. So all that section in the SDS will tell you that. And also, some chemicals have some harmful and toxic smells. So it will tell you that you need to work in a ventilated area or in the hood. All that is in the exposure control PPE section. There is another section, I said that there were like 16. Another section is like the first aid measures. Well, if you are exposed to the chemical, it will tell you what to do in case of eye contact or skin contact, or if you inhale the compound. So that is the first aid section. There is another section, basically, what to do if the chemical is spilled. Accidents happen. How to proceed if the chemical spill. I know you are virtual now, but you still need to learn in case you are going to do Chem 2, you are going to do it in the lab, or in case you're going to work in a lab. This is information that you need to absorb. A lot of it is common sense. There is another section about firefighting, how you use basically a fire extinguisher, how you store the chemical. That is another section. How to store looks like a little silly. Oh, I just store it anywhere. No, how to store chemicals is a very important issue. I have to tell you that I was working, as I said, for a defense company, and I was responsible for part of it for the safety of the lab. And when the first day I went inside the lab, I couldn't believe how the chemicals were placed everywhere. Chemicals that cannot be next to the other because they react, chemicals, flammables that were outside, and we had explosive, and actually they hired me because there was an explosion right before they hired me. So this was part of it because of storage. So handling and storage of chemicals, I mean, I'm not talking about the school, don't get scared, but industries and labs needs to be very, very careful on how they handle and storage and store the chemicals. So basically, the second, this one, video, understanding SDS, I guess I gave you pretty much a good information. Of course, you're gonna watch it. Don't miss to watch it. But this is just to make the transition easier. The next video here that you can read, Understanding Common Laboratory Safety Signs. You will need to be familiar with the signs. Let me share this. Let me go here. Okay, here. You need to be familiar with the signs. Of course, now it's going to be hard because you are in your home, but just pretend you are in the lab and you are entering the lab. As you enter the lab, in the entrance of the lab, you are going to see at least these two signs, at least. The first one, eye protection. All the students need to wear goggles. You want to wear goggles because you want to protect your eyes. And you're going to see also a sign like this or similar that will say no food or drink allowed. This is obviously common sense, but we still see some people that are bringing water or are drinking water or eating something. No, no, no. We don't want contamination. We don't want to eat something that might be contaminated. So what other signs you are going to see? Let's look at the exit. This guy with this arrow, well, is showing that there is an exit there. And before you start working, especially if you go to a new lab, you need to be familiar with the exits. You need to look at all the exits in case of emergency. And you're going to see those signs and you're going to say, okay, I have that exit, and that exit. And obviously, you cannot block any door that is marked with an exit sign. That has to be open at all times. What other signs that you need to get familiar with? Well, look at all these signs. Look at the first one. This one has two drawings. If you see this sign, well, half of the sign is showing a safety shower. And what is this? What is this showing? Well, you see a little eye here. So you will say, okay, what is that? It's an eye wash. And then it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but you need to recognize this is another sign of where is the shower and the eye wash, or this one, emergency shower. It can be very different. Or this one, eye wash, keep the area clear. What other signs? Where is the first aid kit? Just in case you need it for a small burn, or you need to know where it is. This is a different sign for a first aid kit. And this one too. What is this? The sign of where is the fire extinguisher? If you are in the lab, I can show you. We have all that. And then the emergency blanket that we said, if we have a fire on our clothing or our skin, we cover ourselves with that blanket. So basically, you need to be familiar with these signs, and more signs to remember. Where is the chemical storage? Of course, you're not going to have access to the chemical storage, but you will need to know, okay, that is where the chemical storage is. You need to be familiar with that. And also look at these three pictograms, or these are called pictograms. Basically, these are signs that probably they are next to the sign of chemical storage. It will tell you what kind of hazard the chemicals have. So in this case, this first one, easy to say, it's a fire, right? So we're gonna say, okay, it's flammable. What is the second one? It's similar to the first one, but it has an O here. So it's an oxidizer. So it will give you information what kind of danger is in that chemical storage. And the last one, it tells you that is corrosive. So you have to be careful. And also, you might find these diamonds also in a sign showing you, depending on the chemical that is stored, giving you information about the chemical that is stored. Okay, so I guess about signs, you saw quite a bit. Here there are more signs. Here, let's look at this. If you see, we don't have that at school, but that means they are cylinder. This looks very small, but they are cylinder of gases. It can be helium, can be nitrogen, but all those cylinders, you probably saw a truck carrying those, or you saw that in a lab. We use that for chromatography. if you see those, you don't have to do anything, but you have to know to recognize the sign that those are gas cylinders, and the cylinders are under high pressure. And if they are knocked or they are damaged, basically they can explode. So all you have to do is recognize the presence and make sure they are properly strapped. That's all you need to do. These are some of the signs that you will need to be familiar with. And now let's go back to share the, okay. So so far we saw the signs, and I would like to pause to give you an opportunity of asking me a question. Is it clear so far? You can message me. Any questions so far about safety? Are you hearing me? Is anybody hearing me? Can you message me? Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, you are there. You didn't fall asleep. Awesome. Okay, so let's continue. The next video, the video number 4, it talks about dressing for the lab and PPE. Basically, this is easy. You can watch it. Basically, it's about you have to wear shoes that are closed-toe shoes. You cannot show the skin from your neck down. You have to wear safety goggles, gloves, a lab coat, and you cannot go with short pants to the lab because it's dangerous. You can spill something on your skin. You want the clothing. And it might be funny. You might think, oh, yeah, of course, this is common sense. But many people have a hard time. I work with a PhD in chemistry, very smart guy, but he refuses. He refused to wear long pants. And I'm talking about the Washington, D.C. that was cold in the winter. No matter how cold it was, he was working in the lab with short pants, and that is not acceptable. So we couldn't promote him because of that problem, because it was very dangerous, and we couldn't allow him. At the end of the day, he came with a very long lab coat, and that fixed the problem. So I'm telling you this little story so you remember that how to dress in a lab. You cannot go with sandals. And for how long? There might be a question in the quiz. For how long do you have to wear the goggles or the PPE? You keep it until when? Until you finish? Well, if you finish, but you have a next door neighbor that is not done working, then the danger is still there. So you keep your PPE until everyone is done working. And this is important, not when you finish. And then it's going to be another question, so pay attention when they teach you in the video how to remove the gloves. There is a technique. You don't want to touch with the gloves, with the external part of the gloves. You don't want to touch your skin. So they show you a little technique. Pay attention to that in this video. And it's going to talk about when you have gloves and you are exiting the lab, you cannot open the doors with gloved hands because you are going to contaminate the door. So basically, when everybody's done finished working, you just remove the gloves, wash your hands, and leave. And of course, never eat or drink with gloves or lab coat. That is common sense, but they might ask you again that we don't want contamination. So this is a very short video, and the next one is about how to dispose the laboratory waste. If we are going to do experiments, there is always going to be waste, no matter what. So we need to learn how to dispose the chemicals. Many industries throw away in the water, just still now. Contamination. They throw away in the water chemicals that are dangerous to everybody. We don't want to injure any humans. We don't want to harm the environment. So we need to learn that this is another issue when you work with chemicals. So I worked at the USDA laboratory again in Washington DC also, and it's very you still see how people contaminate the food. We were testing food before it goes to the market, to the grocery stores, and you will see that still now the food is contaminated. Sometimes, I'm not going to scare you, sometimes. So it's important, all this, to remember how to dispose the chemicals. So basically, you will have different containers for depending on what kind of waste you have. You will have solids, you will have aqueous waste, you will have organic waste. Each one will have a different container. If you have sharps, of course, you saw in the hospital, they use a special box for sharps that you cannot take them out once you put it in. Otherwise, you're gonna get hurt. And we have in this school a little box with a plastic bag to put the glass waste, or when it's broken, and we'll have the solid waste. So we have so many different containers depending on what kind of experiment you are going to perform. Another important thing is if you are handling waste, always have to wear the PPE. What else is talking in this video, and what else they're going to ask you in the quiz? Well, you will have to, when you have a container of waste, you have to label the container. What do you have to write when I call the people that remove the waste? I have to have it written what chemical is in that container. If there are more than one, the relative amounts of those chemicals. If there are specific hazards of that chemical, and obviously the date that is filled. We don't want all chemicals. Some decompose, some cannot be there for a long time. So when was that container filled? So all those pieces of information should be in the label of the container. And then they mention a few more things in this video that you might want to remember, that sometimes we use a primary container, let's say a bottle, to put the waste, but because we want to avoid the risk of spills, we put the first container in a second, or let's say a tray. The tray is a secondary container. So if something spills in the primary container, well, you have a secondary container like a tray that will hold the waste. And they also talking about in this video that if you have broken glass, okay, you can remove the big pieces, but you cannot remove it with regular gloves. You need to wear thick gloves in order to remove. This is probably, again, common sense, right? But they might ask you about that as well. And also, there are special chemicals that, of course, you are not going to have them because they are very toxic. But still, they want you to know that they are very toxic and you need a special kit for that. Those are mercury. It needs a special kit to dispose that. And hydrofluoric acid. Those two are toxic and you don't dispose them in a regular way. And I guess for that video, that would be it. Let's go to there are so many videos. I think after that you won't have that many. But you will have to complete that report though. The next one is disposing. No, this is the one that we just did. Let me disposing of laboratory waste, and now comes cleaning up. Cleaning up spills. Obviously, you need to know spills happen when we cook in the kitchen. We spill. So we try not to because these are chemicals, but sooner or later we are going to spill. So basically we need to learn how to respond efficiently to spills. So first of all, you are supposed to know the information of that chemical from the bottle or from the SDS. But let's say it will show you actually in this video how to clean it. It's very simple. Let's say you have a spill of a liquid. First of all, you need to know where is the spill kit. Where is the spill kit? Once you get the spill kit, what is the spill kit? It's basically, it has plastic bags, it has material that will absorb the spill. It might have a dustpan as well. This is all it is, the spill kit, is to clean a spill. So if you have a liquid, well, you get the absorbent material. The first thing you want to do is stop the spread. So you are going to put the absorbent material surrounding the liquid. And then after that, you cover the whole thing. You put it on the top, and then you scoop up all the absorbent material. You can use the dustpan that came. If not, you can use a scoop. And all that material, you put it in the plastic bag, you tie it off, and then you put it in a second plastic bag. And then you label the bag with the name of the chemical. And where are you going to put it? In the solid waste container. This is a solid waste container. Are you going to put it in the trash? No. Who's going to put chemicals in the trash? No, no, no. So you are going to put all that in the solid waste container. And if it's a liquid, that is an acid or a base, you have to neutralize it first before you put the absorbent material. So if you have, let's say, you spilled a little bit of acetic acid, okay, you bring baking soda that neutralizes the acid, and then you do all the steps that I just mentioned, but you need to neutralize first. And if you have a base, you have to also neutralize it. In this case, you can use citric acid or ascorbic acid. So this is the difference if you spill an acid or a base, that you have to neutralize it first. Any questions so far before I go to the next videos? Okay. The next video talks about responding to an emergency. What is an emergency? It's a situation like a fire, or you have an injury, or somebody responded bad to a chemical. So you need to know where are the emergency phones, and what to do if the alarm goes off. What are you going to do if an alarm goes off and you are in the lab? They will show you and they will ask you that. Basically, you stop everything that you are doing. If possible, you turn off all the equipment, like the hot plates, or if you have a Bunsen burner, but you keep calm and leave. So this is basically the most important. Of course, you're going to talk to your instructor, and you're gonna say that. And the last video, handling storing chemicals, we talk a little bit about that. What is very, very important is that if you take from a bottle a little bit of chemical, you never return that chemical to the original bottle, because you can contaminate. Whatever you take, you try to take only the amount that you are going to use, but never return it. If you took too much, then ask somebody else if somebody needs it. If not, you still don't return it. It's going to be waste. Or you cannot use the same spatula. You can use the same, but if you use a spatula or a scoop for one chemical, then you have to clean it very well before you put it in the other. Some students have sometimes a hard time with that. But if you get used to that, and you will see other things in that video, what is the best, what is a good chemical store, how it should be a good chemical storage location. They will tell you it has to be cool, has to be dark, and has to be dry. So they will tell you that as well. And this is basically about handling chemicals. If you have chemical that is in a big bottle, and you have to pour that into a burette or a piece of glassware that is delicate or has a small diameter, or is like a tube, what are you going to do? You're not going to pour straight from the big bottle. You're going to pour some amount in an intermediate beaker, and from there you are going to pour in the burette. So that is common sense that is important to learn once you start working in the lab. You probably next semester are going to need all these things, but for now you need it for the quiz. And we are about to finish today. Let me see from all of what we talk about. We talk about when to remove the goggles. We talk about how to remove gloves, to pay attention on that. When do you have to wear gloves in the lab? When? Obviously, before handling any glassware or chemicals, right, for the experiment. We mentioned that as well. And pay attention, if you wear corrective glasses, how are you going to do with the goggles? And I have 5 minutes, and we are finished with the videos. I'm going to stop the recording. We end up for this week is very simple. You don't have to produce the report. It will be simple just to watch, as I said, the videos, take notes, and you will be fine. You have 2 chances. If the first one you didn't get the grade that you want, you will try a second time. And next week we will start with the experiments, and I will guide you explaining those. So I would like to thank you everybody for being here, and I will stay after I stop the recording for any question you might have. Thank you.